Hey, come catch this wave with the Fixx squad. The Fixx is in. I'm Mr. Soul, I'm tuning in. What you doing?
Stand up. James left, but the king still reigns here. No tears, no love lost, no rain here. Delivers, I promise, Santa rain here. Love for the city still resides here. Fix for your ailment, faith that resides outside the lines. Detox your mind, cause it matters. Art outside the box, we paste better. The Fixx is in, and we rock a chin, or we rock with them for what's deep within. Expose those who talk but don't live. Expose those who talk but don't live. Take offense. Judge by the fruit from the tree, but if the fruit tastes.
Welcome back. DJ Focus, Dice Gamble. You tap back into the Fixx, your source for faith-infused hip-hop, R&B, and poetry. Y'all know what time it is. And when I tell y'all, we in for a treat this morning. When I tell you, this is one of the pioneers. Listen, hip-hop turns 50 this year. And whether you like it or not, we have had a staple in the history of hip-hop. Whether you want to call it faith-infused hip-hop, Christian rap, gospel rap, whatever you want to call it. I'm blessed to have one of the pioneers, and he's a super talented hip hop artist. So he does a little bit of everything. But I know him from starting off, like I say, in this Christian hip hop, faith infused hip hop, and just being very, very vocal about a lot of topics that a lot of pastors, a lot of people of faith were not talking about. So I've always been a fan, always appreciate him being radical. And I think his name says it all. So without further ado, let me welcome in a super talented poet, writer, artist, musician. He does it all. The one and only Propaganda. What's up, bro?
Man, what's the word, y'all? How y'all feeling, man? Thank you for that intro, bro.
Yeah, for sure. No, you've been putting the work in. So you listen, everybody that comes on, we give people roses while they still living, especially when you've been putting the work in. And I know the stuff you do behind closed doors that a lot of people don't know about. So I want to salute you on that. So first, I definitely got to ask you, man, have you always been this radical? Like, take us back to your childhood, your teen years.
Yeah, man, that's interesting, man. Cause like I always I really see myself as like from the spaces I'm from, like I'm pretty bare minimum, like
Wow.
my father was a Black Panther. So I have that history. So for me, it was like the issues we speak on were just so normal conversations in our home that I didn't think it was that radical. You know what I'm saying? And since I'm from the West, it's like, I mean, when we do stuff, we do stuff. It was like, if you was a gangster rapper, you was a gangster rapper. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you had to like, stand on your square and spit your bars. You know what I'm saying? And if you was like, if you was Muslim, you was Rasta, like you did you. You know what I mean? But we all just loved hip hop, and we said what we had to say. So I think, man, if you push me on that question, I think, well, I mean, yeah, I guess like in 6th grade, you had to do like a report on a country, and I did Ethiopia and it's famine that was caused by the West. You know what I'm saying? And then like in middle school, you had to do like a biography, and I submitted a Nat Turner one. And they made me do it again. So I submitted Malcolm X. And then they made me do it again. So I had to do Nelson Mandela. And I did it on apartheid. And because again, like I just came from that home. So like, I guess moving into music, I mean, yes. So then I guess your answer is yes. You know what I'm saying? But I never saw myself as radical. I'm like, this is just what it is,
Was there ever one teacher? I love that you brought up, you doing the book reports and doing the biography. Was there ever one teacher that actually sat down and respected that you were that educated to these different Black leaders?
Yeah, all of them. They're all my teachers. I remember all of my teachers. I grew up, I was, born in South Central. I was raised on like in the East Side. So I was raised in a predominantly Latino space. So because of that, they were always, they were terrified of my dad. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause he just didn't play, and then I went to like, I got bussed out to a suburban high school. And I think again, because it was just like, he's not what we think, you're supposed to be. They were always like, oh my gosh, like they would tell my mom, like, after they split, they would tell my mom, like, man, he's a born leader. He's this, So I think they always like were, I think they were always like, respected the game on me, you know. Even when I was getting in trouble, like it was like, yeah, but he's so smart, you know.
So talk a little bit about your faith journey. You know, where does your
Yeah.
faith come into not only your music but also you know, your lifestyle and how you kind of move?
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, I was like any other black family, like, you know, we had gangsters and preachers that was in our family, you know what I'm saying? So, going to church was just as normal as, you know, a Sunday dinner, you know what I'm saying? So like I didn't have this like particular like radical sort of conversion. My parents did though, you know, so when I was in elementary school, you know, they had their sort of, we went to church out in Inglewood. They had their like radical, like, okay, we consider ourselves born again believers now. You know, my pop was still outside, you know what I'm saying? But he still kind of like, you know, had his slow sort of transition. I think for me, like, you know, probably in junior high, because again, I found the scriptures as like it scratched a lot of my like academic sort of like historical, like I already knew this wasn't for lack of a better term, like I already knew this wasn't a white man's religion. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I was coming from it from that perspective that I'm like, y'all, this from the soil, you know what I'm saying? So, so like I said, so I didn't have that sort of radical kind of sort of thing, you know, and I went to church in the hood. So they were like, you know, you're not getting nobody pregnant. You know what I'm saying? Like, we not bailing you out. You doing all right. You know what I mean? So for me, with the music, as the music is concerned, like out in California, you know, again, it's not a Bible Belt state. So we didn't have like a Christian hip hop scene, if you will. If you rapped, you went where hip hop was, you know, and we were all in the same place. So like you said, you brought up Tunnel Rats. Like I saw Tunnel Rats at Project Load at just the hip hop spot, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, so like we were all there, the Christians, the Rastas, you know, the Muslims, the atheists, the 5%, we was all in one space. And like I said, you just stood on your square. And if you were dope, you were dope. You know what I mean? So like, for me, it was like the attitude of keeping it real. Like, if you love hip hop, you gotta rap about what you know. You know what I mean? And I'm like, man, this is what I know. You know what I'm saying? So I wasn't aware that there was anything outside of Cali that was like, you know, where you could rap at a church and there was this whole like sort of thing happening, this industry being built. I just didn't know, you know. So yeah, so faith was always a part of my music, just like justice, blackness, you know, LA. Like in my mind, I was like, well, you're just speaking what you know. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No, that's good. Speak a little bit too as well about, you know, just growing up in LA, because I know that has to be a different element. And a lot of people from the outside looking in, they have their own opinions, but you know, you grew up in it. So yeah, speak to it.
I mean, I feel like I wouldn't trade it for nothing. You know, my understanding of the world, of community, of even if we're gonna like bring it to the faith, the understanding of like what it means to be, one body. You know what I'm saying? You're part of one community, and you esteem others higher than yourselves, and your differences, you know, your unity it's not uniformity. You know what I'm saying? Like, so in that sense, it's like that unconditional, because we are all we got, you know, sort of attitude. It's part of being in LA. You know, you got like, even like, I mean, it's gonna sound a little corny, but like, even if you didn't gangbang, because the reality is like, most of us didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, most of us just lived here. You know what I mean? But we were all connected somehow. And with that connection, you just learn, you know, what we would lovingly call the G code. You know, and even with the G code, whether you like, people think it's as simple as like snitching and stuff like that. Like, well, you know, snitching applies to like, well, if you signed up for that, like if you got put on the hood, then snitching is a thing for you. Like, you know what I mean? But it's more than that. It's honor, it's loyalty, it's family, it's support, it's community. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's dignity. And you give people from your block just from by virtue of you being from here. I got you. You know what I mean? So growing up in that, like I said, I was in a Latino space, in a Filipino space, man, you learn multiculturalism, you learn how to survive. You're just in this sort of global kind of like metropolitan, where everyone's talented, everyone's gifted. You know what I'm saying? You don't get arrogant on nobody because like, if anything, it's just because that person probably more talented than you. You know what I mean? My third grade teacher, she was a studio singer for Whitney Houston. You know what I mean? Like, so like you grow up like that. You know what I mean? Like, so before you start acting like, you got something going on, it's like, man, that person pouring your coffee at this, little diner, like that's Bruce Springsteen's guitar player. They just got tired of touring, so when you in that environment, you seeing all these different things happening, you just learn to appreciate just the world around you. And you just, like I said, you just bring that realness to sort of who you are. Like you said, a lot of times most people's perception of LA is either what they understand from like the news and like, gang violence stuff, or Hollywood, and Hollywood is like, I would venture to say like, it's not LA at all. You know what I mean? Like anybody from here is like, no, that's Hollywood. Like we don't act like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, like I said, man, I wouldn't trade it for anything. You know what I mean?
You've been very political over the years, man, and we know you've been an activist and everything. I don't want to date you, but were you around when the whole Rodney King situation happened? Were you a young kid, or speak to that just in general?
Yeah, I was a child. Preteen, maybe. I don't remember exactly. Preteen. I was definitely a preteen, enough to know what was going on. Enough to understand that, like, man, I'm watching on the news. I'm watching a man get beat, and just being like, I remember specifically being like, because I remember it was after school, 5:00 news time, and all my whole family just kind of stopped and watching him, and I just remember having this feeling like, wait, is this real? Like, is this real? Are they really doing this? But I think the most specific was once the riots broke out.
Right.
My grandmother lived pretty close. Florence and Normandy was where the epicenter. So my grandma lived between Florence and Gage, but she lived on the east side, right? So anyway, which is too specific. The point is, Pops was like, let's go. We got to go get your grandmother. You know what I mean? Got to, go bring her to where we were. By this time, we lived in the San Gabriel Valley, so we were 20 minutes east. But my grandma was like, baby, until there's tanks coming down these streets, I'm not going nowhere. And I heard her, and I was like, what? And wow. My dad and my mom, they were still together then. They looked at each other, and they were like, she's talking about the Watts riots, because she was here for that. And I was like, the what? We've done this before? Like, that was my first time learning, that it happened. And she was like, they were like, yeah, we had riots before in the 60s out in Watts. And at the time, they lived in Watts. So she was like, and the National Guard came, and it was tanks that came down our streets. So she, in her mind, she was like, I've been through this before, and that really, like, to this day, I never forgot that feeling. And then the next day we went to go pick her up after everything died down. And I just remember seeing like liquor stores, churches, all these spots that I walked to all the time, because my grandmother watched me, obviously, because, normal Black family, being like, man, that's where that was the taco stand. This just burnt down, and just being like, man, this is so eerie. But it sticks with you, man. I remember the peace treaty when all that stuff started happening. Again, I was too young to really be outside like that. But like, the big homies, the cousins, you know what I mean? Like, they were, really involved in that. Went and got a washing machine for grandma, it was LA.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Listen, DJ Focus, you tapped into the Fixx. We got to go to a quick break. I promise you, we coming right back with more from Propaganda. Keep it locked.
Holy Culture Radio. We're not just background noise. We play the music that inspires you, because every song has a story. Christian hip hop and R&B music and talk on Siriusxm channel 154, 24 hours a day. Holy Culture Radio is changing the game. Discussions about faith, arts, vocation, and education. We talk about the real issues that affect our communities and work together to find solutions. Join the discussion at holyculture.net and be heard.
Welcome back, DJ Focus. You tap back into the Fixx, your source of faith-infused hip-hop, R&B, and poetry. Still got Propaganda on the line with us. So, Prop, come on, man.
What's
I
up
know
with
you
it?
West, so come on, talk about talk about some of your musical inspirations growing up, man, and how,
Oh, man.
they shaped your music and your artistic expression.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I love it, man. I was like just absolute backpacker. You know what I mean? Like I loved everything underground, even just the stuff out the East, you know what I mean? Like all just you name it, any backpacker stuff, I was into all the native tongue few folks, all the then the DOS effects and boot camp and stuff like that. And, everything that was Redman, meth, all that stuff. And then somebody took me to the good life, took me to Project Vote. And I got exposed to Far Side, AC Alone, Abstract Rude, Freestyle Fellowship, and what was happening out here, and these people were tangible. I could touch and see, and to be honest, man, like really Tunnel Rats, like LPG, they were really big as far as like rap was concerned. But that's not all that was happening out here. You had the skating scene was down in Dogtown, like that stuff was burgeoning. So then you got like the Incubus of the world, you know what I'm saying, like Radiohead, like all these other sort of like sounds coming out of LA or just the West period, all the punk stuff from like the Hermosa Beach things, like Pennywises, and it was just such a like moment to be like I wasn't old enough to make that stuff, but I was old enough to go see it. You know what I mean? And just seeing like, scenes being birthed, like, yeah, all that stuff sort of like really fed into the artist I became.
But when did you know it was you really wanted to do this like for real? Because it's one thing, like you said, we all kind of grew up in hip hop, love the music.
Man.
But when did you know like you wanted to like produce and rap and do everything?
Oh, bro, man, my cousin Myron moved from Inglewood, down to where we were, and Myron was so nice off the head, man, and so he was just always freestyling, and then just one day at lunch tables, you know what I mean, like a lot of our origin story, lunch tables, people beating on there making beats, and I was like, man, I could do this, and just jumped in, and so I came from like the battle rap scene, you know what I mean, so like that, just the competitive aspect of it. I was an athlete, but I was always an artist. My first love was graffiti, so before I was rapping, I was, climbing over fences, hopping over freeway walls, that for that adrenaline, like I said, if you're not gangbanging, you was finding something else, you know what I mean? And I found graffiti, and then learning that all those things were connected. I remember the first time, like my sister, she's 6 years older than me, her friends were in these like house party crews. They were in these dancing crews. They was throwing these, you know what I mean? Like totally like the movie House Party, like Kid and Play stuff. Like she's that age, you know what I mean? So all her friends, was looking like that. So I was like, yo, these are the dopest dudes I've ever seen, spinning on their head and just they throwing parties, you know what I'm saying? I was like, cross colors, all this, I'm an elementary school kid seeing my sister and her friends doing all this. I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. Whatever that is, I want to do that. And then finally, yeah, freshman year in high school, jumped in the circle and was like, and you get that crowd response, that adrenaline, you know what I mean? It's like, yo, tap that vein, and people telling you like that you was dope. I was like, oh, I could do this, and then you just find you're good at it, and then it's like, all right, well, I'm gonna keep going.
That's good. Give your thoughts and your opinions on the state of hip hop altogether now. You've been around long enough. You do music. You've heard a lot of music. You've done a lot of collaborations. What do you think we are now, just hip hop in general?
Man, that's a big question. I'm one of those weird ones. Like I never want to become like an old head that's just like, these young dudes is weird. Like I never want to be like that. I want to let them have their thing. They gonna take it the direction they take it. I think I like the fusion aspect of hip hop these days, that like people took it from their region, from their section, and they made it their own. I like that. I think if I were to say if there's anything the state of hip hop is missing, I think personally it's the necessity of like slow cooking your your music or your art, and just the open mic, man. Like that immediate pressure of being on stage in person and having to deliver in front of people. I feel like that crucible, and having to come back next week. If you get booed off stage, having to come back next week, like that crucible, I feel like made the caliber of music that, you know, sort of you and I probably come from, you know what I mean, was because we had to like, it was, it was a, you know, it was a war every Wednesday, you know what I mean?
Right.
And you know, and I think that the entry, like you had to go find it. Like the entry point was just more difficult. We hopped 4 buses to get to Fat Beats to listen to a song on a record and ask because all who worked at the record shop were DJs. So they had to tell you
Yes.
this is what was popping. You know what I'm saying? So I think that like that, and if you wanted to record it, you had to like work for it. You know what I mean? So I think that element of working for it, I think that's what I wish, you know, this sort of round, you know, iteration of hip hop has, you know, and I think also the homie DJ Head said this. He was like, man, we came from an era where like the mainstream rappers was rapping about selling drugs. It's like, well, who do you think they were selling it to?
Right.
These young artists who grew up and now they artists, you know, they rap about taking their drugs. And I'm like, well, you sold it to them. Like that's why they sound like that. You know what I'm saying? But all that to say, I love it, man. I'm excited about where it's going. It's supposed to evolve. It's supposed to become something else. You know what I'm saying? Like just like rock, you know what I mean? Just like metal, like it became other things. You know what I mean? Like you can't have AC/DC and them being mad at like Nirvana. You can't have Nirvana being mad, you know what I'm saying, at like the Billie Eilishes of the world. It's like, nah, it grows, it evolves. I love it. I love like that. Sometimes like hip hop in a lot of ways is like, in some ways it's unrecognizable. You know what I mean? Like, cause it's something else. I think that's dope, you know?
Yeah, that's good. Talk about your music, man. For somebody
My
who may
music,
have
though.
never heard your collective, the Terraform
Yeah.
Collective, walk us through one to where we are now, so people know what you're trying to get across in this
I love
collective.
it, man. Appreciate that, man. Yeah, nah, Terraform started off as a book. It's poetry and short story. The term, if you know science fiction, it's the process of finding a distant planet and making it livable. That's called terraforming. So I just kind of took that as a creative jump off to be like, well, I don't know, man. Earth's getting less and less livable. Whether we talking about the Earth itself or our politics, our, you know, culture, whatever it is, it's becoming less livable. So what if we thought about our lives we live, our planet we own, our families, our community, and ultimately ourselves as terraforming projects? So that's the book and the poetry. So the book is broken up into 4 sections: the sky, the soil, the people, and the possibility. And those 4 sections have accompanying EPs also entitled the sky, the soil, the people, and the possibility. And we released those over the course of 3 years. They're 4 EPs, 7 songs each, 4 different producers. So giving 4 different sounds, and they're all built around the concepts that you follow along in the book. And we just released the final piece, which was the possibility, with the homie Daniel Steele and King's Kaleidoscope. And this young producer named Max, part of this group called Ollie, who really did a lot of the heavy lifting, and this super talented dude. And then finally there's a Terraform cold brew. So there's a coffee, if you know me, heavy into the coffee thing. And so we did a canned ready to drink cold brew coffee that originally was just supposed to be like a single drop, but we're like, wait, actually we may have a business here. So that's going to continue to live on. But yeah, 1 book, 4 EPs, and a coffee. And they're all available now, all produced by different things, produced by different producers with different sounds. And the possibility just dropped last week.
Why do the 4 different sounds within the EPs? I feel like that was intentional.
Oh, absolutely. One, it was just a challenge as an MC. You know what I mean? Like I still want to be challenged, you know? And secondly, it's like, it would be very difficult to ask. That's a heavy lift for one producer, number one, you know? And number 2, it's like, I am not the type that just gathers beats and, you know, it's not my style. Like I'm more like, I want to sit down and build with a producer, because they're artists too, you know, and let's create an opus. And like I said, there's a sound that we were going for because the sound is connected to the concept, you know what I mean? So the sky, you know, is much more about like stuff that's more elemental and a lot of like sort of like nature and kind of like culture kind of driven. And then the soil, you know, that's the mud. So I had to get somebody from the South, you know what I mean, and give me that blues feel, you know what I'm saying? And then the people is tribal. So it's a lot of chants and stuff like that. And then the possibility is supposed to be much more majestic and orchestral. So you had to find dudes that can do that where that's their bag. You know what I mean? So I just wanted people to be in their bag, you know what I mean? And so that I could be in mine also.
That's big, man. That's big, man. When it's all said and done, man, what's that one piece of advice you would give an aspiring artist that you would tell them, that we would kind of leave with them to say, if you really want to do this, this is what you need to know?
Man, it's discipline, tenacity, and just patience. You know, you have to have the discipline to be like, this what I'm gonna do. And if I don't see results right now, that's fine. I'm gonna keep coming to the table. You know what I'm saying? So like, you gotta have that discipline and that tenacity with the confidence to know that what you making is really good. It's worth your time. And if it's not really good, put in the hours. You know, hit the gym. You know, go do your laps. Like, in the gym is writing songs. There's hundreds of songs that nobody's ever heard. You know, because I was in the gym. You know, just getting my pen up. You know what I'm saying? So like, if you love it, you'll do that. You know what I mean? And then just patience. Some stuff, look, I know Christians don't like the word luck. Y'all, I get it. You know what I'm saying? You don't like that, but I don't know what to say. Sometimes it's just like, stuff just happens. You know what I mean? Like, there was no formula. It just, and then sometimes it don't happen. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know. You want to talk sovereignty? I guess. You know, like, I can't make God press the button. You know, if it just, sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. You know, but if you know that, like, you just keep planting them seeds, keep planting them landmines. Like, somebody told me a long time ago, like, you know, music now it's not rockets, it's landmines. Like, you may not shoot that rocket into the sky where you got that #1 hit, but if you keep planting them landmines, one of them things is gonna pop. It may be a song from 5 years ago. You just got to keep putting them in there, you know, keep putting them in the ground. So I would say that, you know, discipline and, you know, persistence, you know, and you know, even that discipline of, like, if you got to do this after work, do it after work. You know what I mean? Like, what do you want me to say? Do it after work. If it's not making money, you got to go make money somewhere else. Don't stop doing it.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
You know, Christian hip hop has come a long way, and I know you've been around, and like you said, you've been around some of the pioneers. Do you think, you know, now compared to like when you first started off, and you talked about the Tunnel Rats, and I know T-Bone was out that way, and just some of the pioneers, do you think that it's more industry or entertainment driven compared to pushing the gospel and ministry driven now?
Man, I don't think it's that linear. I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's both. You know, I think that, like, I don't think people have, you know, such singular motivation. You know what I mean? Like, somebody's like, oh man, I'm just in here for the gospel. You lying. You know what I'm saying? That's not true, bro. Like, it's more going on there. You know what I'm saying? You love him. You like rapping. You like rapping. And it's okay to like rapping. Like, why you feel like you can't like rapping? You know what I'm saying? If you just in here, then go to seminary and preach. Like, if you like hip hop, you like hip hop. It's okay to like hip hop. You know what I mean? Like, you could be like, oh, I enjoy doing it. I enjoy performing. Listen, I will tell you, I'll be the first one to tell you, I love the stage. You know what I'm saying? That don't mean I like attention. I don't know what to tell you. You know what I'm saying? Like, does that mean I love Jesus any less? Absolutely not. You know, I want to be able to like make a living. I want to be able to, if I'm gonna come up here and I'm gonna perform for you for an hour and a half, I want to come home with the finances that reflect, you feel me, that I just gave you, you know what I'm saying, 2 days of my life. You feel me? So, like, I think there's that. And industries have rules, you know, and sometimes industries, you know, if you're not worried about the industry, then just stay in your garage and don't sell your albums. But you want to make, you want to make money. Like, that's not evil. You know what I'm saying? So I think, and then on the other end, it's like, I mean, if the gospel's the lick, I mean, maybe, you know what I'm saying? Like, there may be people out there like that, but I don't think people are generally that singular. I think it's a combination of all of it. You know what I mean? And you just got to check your heart all the time, you know, and I think there's more opportunity now because of the sort of the things that not only went on before me, the things that, you know, sort of my like kind of graduating class went through, you know. But at the same time, it's like, man, you know, as far as Christian hip hop's concerned, man, my only hope is like y'all have like a sort of a, I wish you just had a longer memory, like a longer cultural memory. Like I just like don't hash out arguments we hashed out. Like push it forward. You know what I'm saying? Like don't have the same talks we have, you know, or we had. And we shouldn't have had the same talks our OGs had. Like y'all work that out. We should like build on it. To me, what's discouraging as far as Christian hip hop is concerned is seeing these young homies having the same arguments we had, you know. And I'm like, dog, we worked that out, man. Like if anything, it's like look at Lecrae and Prop. Like for a long time, we was two opposite ends of the spectrum. That's one of my best friends. Like we've toured together so many times. So I'm like, if that doesn't show you, you feel me, that it just don't have to be like this, that y'all could just go out and do what y'all want to do and do what y'all can do and just trust each other's heart. And at the same time, again, lastly, I say this, I don't want to get too long-winded, but like, again, I'm from the West and it's the G code. I'm like, man, if you don't mess with that dude, don't mess with him. Like that's easy. Like you just don't like him. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing unchristian about being like, I just don't like homeboy. Like, okay, like that's fine. You ain't gotta make no theology out of it. I just don't mess with him. This my boys. These who I mess with. That's my homegirl. That's who I mess with. That's who we run with. I wish them no ill. I hope that God is glorified in their music. I'm just not gonna tour with them.
That's good. Listen, man, I got to get you back on, man. Tell the people, man, what you got coming up. I know, you just dropped the possibility. Are you looking to go on tour with it? Are you touring this summer?
Man, I'm trying, man. Trying to tour. Touring's been pretty hard coming out of the pandemic. If you're not selling 1,500, 2,000 tickets, fools ain't trying to book you in the room. So, but yeah, man, a lot more music coming out. I'm working on a poetry record right now, which I'm really excited about, starting the next book. You know, but really like as far as content, that's what's going on. But like the coffee is like really taking up a lot of my time, man. I've never actually, for my whole career, I've been the product. You know, I've never had a situation where the product's the product, you know what I mean? So it's a little bit of learning when it comes to like, you know, sort of launching a full brand that's not me, you know? So really, man, I'm really excited about building those things and, and continuing to write like some super dope poetry.
Listen, we appreciate you, Prop. Keep doing what you're doing, man. We definitely support you, man. Tell the people how they connect with you, follow you on all your social media platforms, as well as introduce your latest single.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you can hit me. All my app mentions on everything is just Prop Hip Hop. That's my website. That's every app on any platform you own, even the new platforms. It's all Prop Hip Hop. Yeah. So what song we dropping?
You tell me.
Okay. Man,
yeah. This your song.
Okay, this is my song. Let's see which one y'all want to hear. Y'all trying to have your head broke, your neck broke, or you trying to like think? You know what? Let's go with which one's getting the most streams right now? Just Earth with New Skin. That's getting the most streams right now. So yeah, it's Just Earth with New Skin. That's off the Possibility. It's a thinker though. It's gonna nod your head, but it's a thinker. Y'all check this out.
Keep it locked. You tuned into the Fixx. You know the Fixx is in.